What would be your like all-time worst alien nightmare? Like your personal, like aliens invade, what's like the worst thing they could do?
I wouldn't want to go out like the dudes in Under the Skin. I think that would be a bummer.
Greetings, creeps. Welcome to Convo Fango. Today we are joined by director of No One Will Save You, Brian Duffield. Brian, thanks for joining us today.
Thank you for having me.
I wore the most alien shirt I have. I think I need to invest in some more extraterrestrial wear. This is the closest I had
That's
was
a
the
dope.
Twilight of the
What's the rest of the shirt? Twilight Zone Marathon? Is it like the New Year's
Star
Eve?
Wars style. It's like
Those New Year's Eve marathons. I live for those.
the best, right?
Yeah, so great.
I would never guess that you're a Twilight Zone fan. Just
I
kidding.
know, it's shocking.
So there's been a lot of talk about aliens recently in the news, so that makes
Yeah.
it a little like extra timely to release this. So I'm curious, in your personal and professional opinion, Brian, are aliens real?
Sure. Why not? I think it's such a if the universe is infinite, it would be such a bummer if we were as good as it gets. So I'm all for it. I just want to know before I die that they are real, and then I'm good.
And then you're
Like
good, and then
that's
you'll
probably
die.
how I'll die, but
The last millisecond, it's real,
like
and then it does a
nice.
little,
Yeah,
yeah.
and then turned into ash.
Yeah,
Yeah.
disintegrated. But it would be so cinematic though, a disintegration,
Yeah,
right?
give me a good tripod death. Yeah.
As long as you get it on camera, then it's
Yeah.
fine.
As long as Tom Cruise is okay.
So you've tasked your lead here with a very tall order. So much of this absolutely hinges on Caitlin's performance, no matter how interesting whatever is happening around her is. Like if she isn't interesting and if she's not selling it, then the kind of it just everything will fall apart. But she absolutely understood the assignment.
Yeah.
So
Made
at
it
what
very
point in your
easy.
yeah, right? At what point in your process did you know like that she was your Bryn?
As soon as we talked about it, and she was so we sent her the script, and we hopped on a Zoom, and she was just so excited, and she was so excited about the physicality of it too, which was so great that she was just like, I want to run and get on wires and all this stuff. And we had great stunt people too, because there's some things that would have been ridiculous to allow her to do, but she really wanted to do a lot of it. And so just like it was just so great having a creative partner. Like she's a producer on the movie, produced the like it wasn't just a vanity thing, like she really did the job. And it was just a full creative partner. And performance wise, I was not surprised at how good she was because I've seen her act for like 20 years. And it's just, she's Caitlin Deaver. It's you're getting something good.
Yeah.
But just getting to have that presence on set, she was such a great leader, such a great champion of the crew. We shot like at the start of like that really bad surge of COVID in 22. I don't even know. Yeah, at the start of 22. So it was really tense to shoot. But it just having her, really look out for everybody. It could not say enough good things about Deaver. She's the best.
I love it. That's awesome.
And like you
Let's
said,
talk.
like she is the movie,
Yeah.
and it's I never once had to worry about it. It was
Yeah.
great.
I mean, she has more business to tend to than like Tom Hanks in Castaway, I guess. But still, there's so much of it that it's like if she's not selling it, then it's just kind of like, meh, you know.
Yeah, yeah, it's a lot of she has a harder time than Hanks.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really fun. And I think she just loved it. Like at least maybe she was miserable, but she's such a good actor, I would never know. But it would be like, she's screaming, crying, you call a cut, and then she's just like doop de doo, like that was fun, let's do it again. Like it's so it's a superpower. It's so crazy what actors are able to do, and then when they're as good as her, it makes no sense. Like I can't understand how they do what they do.
Amazing.
Like I'm barely functional as a person, and these guys make up new people all the time. It's crazy.
And people applaud you for it. They're not like, we gotta lock you away. You're talking to yourself and making weird shit up.
It's nuts.
The pacing in this is really interesting to me because just watching it, I was so fucking exhausted for this
Good.
character.
Yeah. Nice.
Yeah.
The Peloton of movies.
Yeah. So pleased with yourself. You're like, all right, good.
It's surprising. It's the challenge is that you don't get, hopefully you're exhausted at the end but not like in the middle and you're just like I'm out. So it's a kind of a weird edit challenge where like sometimes you could cut it too hard and you would kind of lose your superhuman in Caitlin, and so that was kind of the real fun part of editing, was knowing we wanted to be really relentless, but sometimes that meant pumping the brakes just enough that you were able to check in with Caitlin, and but not so much that you were like, okay, I'm okay. Like it was like we just gotta keep the train going, but remember that we have one of the best actors in the world in the movie, and we got to check in and make sure we're tracking this really interesting character that she's creating.
Yeah, I was like, I just need a breath for a second. Like, okay, good. I'll go. No, there's more. Yeah, but in a fun way. Not fun
Good.
for her, but fun as an audience member,
Yeah,
not
it's
having to
short.
deal with it.
It helps. Yeah.
Yeah. What would be your like all-time worst alien nightmare? Like your personal, like aliens invade. What's like the worst thing they could do? I guess not engage with you because you're like, yeah, let me know that you exist before
I
I
guess
die.
I would be really worried about my family. So that would be like the worst. I mean, I think um I wouldn't want to go out like the dudes in Under the Skin. I think that would be a bummer. I don't want, just all the meat transported to another dimension. That sounds like it would suck. And then all the I think anything where it's like you lose autonomy. That sounds real. I would rather the tripod, yeah, than the other that stuff.
Disintegration, implosion. I would take
I'm just
all of
like,
that
it's
over.
no, like I don't. Those people didn't really know what was happening,
Yeah.
as opposed to that kind of the Carpenter Cronenberg world. That seems like it would suck.
Yeah. A little bit of a bummer. Yeah.
Yeah.
So much of this does play out like a weird nightmare dreamscape kind of thing where you're floating in and out of it with the character. How did you kind of nail that vibe?
I don't know. I think I think it was just like knowing. I think that was something actually we worked on in editing, because sometimes people would lean too hard into, like when we show people, they would be like, the whole thing's a dream, and we were like, no, it's happening. But it is so relentless that sometimes it did lean to itself to like you just get a little swirly. And so that was kind of the thing to kind of figure out, like, okay, how do we really ground this, that we are telling like this very global event, but we're telling it so specifically from Caitlin's point of view. So the fact that Caitlin's she's not on Twitter to kind of see what's happened. Like she's not getting that download. Like it did isolate people, and that was something we had to kind of work on in terms of being like, it can feel like a nightmare, but you have to make it feel like, it's like the Rosemary's Baby. Like it was no dream kind of thing.
Not a dream. Yeah.
Yeah. So like making sure it kind of felt like in that space. And I think it's just, it was kind of like just an edit tone. It was like a score tone. And it's like the secret sauce that I struggle to put into words, but it was something that I was surprised by. Like the first cut we showed people, how many people were like, it's all a dream. And then really working to be like, why are people feeling that way? And how do we address that? And so yeah, for us, it's like this movie is happening, and it's brutal for her.
Yeah. Yeah. That's
Yeah.
interesting that you kind of had to like fine tune that to kind of land on that, because I feel like you landed on it in a very realistic way. Because for me, I'm like, I feel like I would probably disassociate, like, shit, yeah, you're dealing with this relentless and just exhausted. Like, has she slept? Probably not. So I feel like at a certain point, you're dealing with the most unreal shit ever. It would just kind of feel like what is real and what is not. Like,
Yeah, and I think part of it was like when we were showing people, there's a lot of the movie that isn't in the movie when you show people, because of effects and sound and everything. So it gets really trippy when you're watching the movie and there's no aliens in the movie. So there's that element too, which makes a lot of sense. If it just makes it feel like she's insane. And you're like, I promise there's gonna be an alien here at some point, but when you watch it without aliens, it's a different vibe. So
it's a
there's that.
different vibe for sure. You got to release that on like special features, like the no
I'd love
aliens
to.
cut.
I think it would be really it would be really interesting to show the different cuts that we screen for people, because it's a fucking nightmare to show without thing like it's really confusing, but you also are trying to learn, and you have to learn before it's too late, because
Right.
everything costs so much money visual effects wise. And so it's a really, I talk to the studio about it all the time. Like we're like, there has to be a better way to do this, but none of us know what that way is. Like it's you're asking a lot for people to be like, okay, imagine all of this and
Mhm.
go. And then you're getting feedback from people and you're like, I don't know if this makes any sense. But I have to act like it does. So
Right.
it's a really interesting because the movie's really only the movie's only really the movie in the last like month of post, and it's a long post, and so it's a really interesting dilemma, but we made the best of it.
Listen, if you need me to stand in next time as an alien, it's like a visual effects will go here, but I'll just be an alien, be like, pretend I look
That we
really
had
cool and
like
scary.
dudes in like blue leotards, and we had like JPEGs, and it was just like, and then sometimes it's like really silly because it's that, and like you're showing audiences and they're all like, ha ha ha. And they're like, maybe the movie's not scary. And you're like, well, maybe not. And then there's by the end of it, people are like, oh, that was terrifying. So, but like you don't know that until you're done.
Yeah, that's
So
kind
it's a
of a
really,
terrifying process for you in like a
yeah,
bad
it
way,
sucks.
because if people are laughing and you're like, this is no, why are you laughing? It's
It
not a
was
fun.
like, I mean, it was really, I would, it's again, like I don't know what the answer is to how better to do that process, because it's like, yeah, you're trying to be like, I'm gonna have to spend $10,000 on this shot. I want to know that this shot works, but I can't show the shot without the $10,000
Yeah.
worth of shot.
Ugh.
And so you're just showing like a hand come in, and it's not gonna look great, but you're just like, narratively, does it make sense? And so it is like, it's a really interesting vibe of like, a lot of it's Caitlin acting opposite a guy in a blue suit or nothing. And then you're just putting a JPEG there, and then it gets a little bit better, and it's a little bit better, and then eventually it's done and it has amazing sound. But that's the last couple of weeks. And
Yeah.
you're like, hopefully, yeah.
We're crossing our fingers that it works. Man, how did you land on the creature design? Because I mean, an alien that can look kind of like anything. So how did you decide, and what were those conversations like of like, okay, this is what you're gonna look like and sound like?
Yeah, really always wanted to be the Grays. Like I just felt really underserved by movies giving me the Grays. And then the fun of it was getting to build out that culture, and then getting to work with like the sound guys to even the few movies that do have Grays, they're all silent typically. Like even Close Encounters, like those guys aren't talking, they're doing sign language. And their ships playing music. They're not talking. Um, and so that felt like a real open book for us to kind of develop a language. And then it was fun to develop a language that Caitlin obviously would understand, but they're talking at her the whole movie. Um, and then Caitlin starts recognizing phrases and the music of their speech kind of throughout the movie. And we knew what they were saying to each other. And how they were saying it. And so it just was like, you don't want to lean too far into this should be subtitled, but you want to feel like Caitlin's kind of starting to grasp familiar sounds and ideas. And so that was a really fun process with the sound boys to kind of figure that out, and to create this language that no one could speak.
It was really effective because the sound added, so the chittering for me is what gets me in anytime anyone looks or sounds or moves in an insect like fashion. Like I didn't realize how uncomfortable it makes me until they're scuttering across the screen and making these sounds. I was like, I hate it so much.
Yeah, no, it's great. I mean, that was the toes that came out of the design process. Like that wasn't in the script, and then the design guy at one point he pitched like, oh, they could go up on their toes, and we were like, that's crazy and cool. And then that became a really fun thing because we were all really into the idea like the aliens don't care if she hears them, like they're just blah 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 blah. But then when she can't hear them, that's when she's like, oh shit, like they are creeping up on me, like that's the problem. And so that became like a really fun device to have, where it was just like, oh, like they have like they walk on their toes, and it's a little Addams Family. But it felt like, oh, like they have no problem being loud, but if they're quiet, that's a real problem, and she knows they're on their toes. And that being like another problem that she has to kind of deal with. And yeah, the sound guys just came up with so many really cool ideas. And yeah, it's so fun getting to bring all these people together to add great ideas that you're happy to take credit for.
Amazing. I know that's our time. I'm just gonna let you know I did a reverse scream when the toe thing revealed. I was like, no.
Oh, that was one of those things where you're like, it feels really silly when it's not done. And it's kind of silly, but in a fun way. But it's like the idea is like it's silly, but then you kind of realize, oh, this is really bad for her, because now she knows if they want to be quiet, they can be quiet. So because before then everything is like they're making so much noise, she's like, I know they're in that room. And then when that happens, she's like, oh shit, like now I know
stealth mode.
Be quiet. And then when it happens in the basement, it's my favorite part of the movie.
Yeah, absolutely not. No to all of it.